Hello, today we're going to talk about literal equations. Alright, literal equations consist primarily of variables, which are letters. They are often called formulas, and they often describe real world relationships. So, an example would be force equals mass times acceleration. Alright, these are just variables. Their equation, you can move stuff around. Say I had K equals P H plus S. All right, that could be one too. All right, so what literal equations are is they're just basically letters, and what we're going to ask you to do in this lesson is manipulate them and solve for a certain letter. So I'm going to start off slowly, and this can get very confusing because you're used to using numbers. And with numbers, you move it, you combine them. Here you don't really combine, you're just moving it and leaving it in that idea. So here, so if I had 4 equals 2x, if I solve that, I get 2 equals x. Now with a literal equation, I'll switch this and make this r equals kx. All right, and I still want to solve for x. So I have to divide by k. I'm doing the same thing. Divide by k. So then r over k equals x. So see, you just leave it as the operation that you did. Here, you combined it. Here, you just leave it as division. All right, before we get to actual literal equations, we're going to plug in some answers. I'm going to show you how to solve some stuff. So for all of these, I'm going to plug in a equals -3, b equals 4, and c equals -5. I don't know why this is in this lesson, but we're going to do it anyways. All right. So I plug them all in. This is an absolute value, these two bars right here. So the absolute value of -3 plus 4 minus 5. Combine them all, get -4, which is just 4. Because absolute value changes every negative into positive. So any answer in absolute value is always going to be positive. Well, I'll stick with my green. Plug it in. Gives me -3 minus 4 plus 5. This is just showing you that if it has a different sign in front of it, a negative, you'll always switch the sign of the number you have. So that's how I always take it. If there's a negative in front of my variable, to me, it always means when I know I have to plug something in, that I'm gonna switch the sign. That's what I did. 4 became negative, -5 became +5. And I combined. It's easy to forget too when you do it. And our last one, -3 plus 4 over -5. So you get -1/5. And there you go. All right, and the last one for those that I just did is b squared minus c squared. So I plug in the b and get 4 squared minus, and I plug in -5. So I square the -5 and I get 25 minus 16. So my answer is -9. All right, now we're getting into solving in terms of the variables. So I have 2 examples up here. I'll switch them around. So it'll either say solve for the C, or it'll just have what you want to solve in the little parentheses thing. So I want to solve for C here. So what's my operation being done between B and C? Well, multiplication. So what is the opposite operation of multiplication? Division. So I divide it away. So I have A over B equals C. And that is how you do one that's just the one step. All right, here, this is more of a two-step equation. So I'm going to put a box around what I'm trying to solve for, just to keep in my mind. So I always get rid of the constant, or whatever is the furthest thing outside is how I always say it. So you have a 2 here, which is the coefficient. That's very close to the y. It's not attached. So I'm going to get rid of this first, because it has nothing to do with the 2y. It's just kind of its own separate thing. Or you could call it a constant if you really wanted to in this case. All right, so I just subtracted it over. I don't need to divide it, because what's being done between these two is addition. So I'm going to subtract it away. Don't start dividing 5 and stuff from it. And now, all I have is 2y, so get rid of the 2. So I get t minus 5x over 2 is y. You're always going to do the opposite operation, but I always work further out. So just split it down half. What is the furthest thing on its side that it's on, away from it? So that's a 5x. Get rid of that, and then get rid of the coefficient. All right, here's another one. Another 2. So in this one, I'm solving for the r. All right? So I can draw a line down if I want to. So what's my furthest thing away from this r? Well, the p and the t are connected by multiplication, so it would be the 1. So I subtract 1 from both sides. Now this is what usually gets people really messed up. All right, think of the p and the t both as coefficients. They're both being done the same thing, so get rid of them at the same time. They're both being multiplied by the r. So all I have to do is divide both at the same time. So then that gives me a minus 1 over pt equals r. And that's how you do that one. Just make sure you're thinking. Get rid of them both at the same time, because a lot of times I'll get p, they'll divide by p, and they'll divide by t, and they won't know what to do. Right. This one over here is a little bit more tricky. Right. So we have to get the h. So now we have to deal with a fraction and this little guy right here. So there's ways to do this. I'm going to do it my way. So how do I want to do this? I'm going to get rid of the 2 first. You can do it however you want, because this one's just a little bit more difficult. Then I'm just going to divide by the a plus b, because I'm still looking at it like it's a coefficient. There you go. I guess you could, if you want to, you can divide by the a plus b first, and then multiply both sides by 2. That works too. You'll get the same answer no matter what. So that's just the way I like to do it. It looks more complicated, it's really not. So there you go. All right, now for this one. This looks super complicated, but it's not. You have to get by the idea of something looking difficult when it comes to literal equations. You just have to go through your steps and you'll be fine. Because immediately you're looking, oh, they're both fractions. All right? So I'm going to have to figure out some common denominator. No, you don't have to. Go through your steps. So I'm trying to solve for the y. Get rid of the farthest thing away. Well, that's this right here. So I can just subtract this entire thing to the other side. And then bring down what I have here. Simple enough. You have to think of stuff as individual components of it that you're trying to move. Not individual numbers, components. Like the a plus b in the last one. It had the parentheses around it, So I treated that as a whole thing and I divided it away. Here, you just subtract that entire thing away. And now, we're a little bit closer to being done. So now I can get rid of the a squared at the bottom. So I multiply this whole side by a squared, multiply this side by a squared. So I get y squared equals a squared times this whole thing. Don't distribute it. Always leave it on the outside like that. And now, y squared. How do I get rid of the squared? Well, I square root everything. So my final answer here is y equals the square root of a squared minus x squared over b squared. Right? So it looks like a complicated problem, but if you look at it, we subtracted, we divided away a coefficient, if you look at the a squared, or we multiplied by a coefficient. So say that was a 2 down there, what would you do? You'd multiply both sides by 2, and then you just did square root. Whenever it gets to these letters, people start getting confused and start overthinking it. Don't. Just treat it with your regular operations. All right, it's dividing, I need to multiply it. It's adding, I need to subtract it away, and you'll be all right. This has been Little Equations. I hope it helped. Just try, ask questions if you need, and good luck.